So, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry has now signed a bill that would require the Ten Commandments to be posted in all public classrooms. But before we really get to talking about this, I want to play this next clip because I don't think I've ever seen a clip that more accurately describes today's Republican Party. As he's signing this ridiculous bill, pay close attention to the young girl standing right behind him and watch what unfolds.
Bill mandates the display of the Ten Commandments in every classroom in public, elementary, secondary, and post-education schools in the state of Louisiana. Because if you want to respect the rule of law, you got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses. All right. That's right. He got his commandments from God. All right.
So yeah, the little girl faints right behind him and they don't even acknowledge it. Now I know some people say, hold on a minute, Brando, the governor had his back to it and he didn't see it. The lady sitting right beside of him saw it and just kept on smiling. Didn't do anything, didn't get the governor's attention and say, hey, a little girl behind you just passed out. Why? Because at the end of the day, they don't care about the children. This is not them caring about the children. This is about them wanting to indoctrinate our children and force their religion down everyone's throats. That's what it's truly about. Because if they truly cared about children, they wouldn't oppose free lunches in school, but they have every time. They wouldn't oppose protecting our children from gun violence in school, but they're the ones that stands up and says, we can't fix it and ain't going to fix it. When we talk about college education, they don't want them having that because the colleges are indoctrinating our children, but they want to put the Ten Commandments up in every classroom and they want to act as though that's not indoctrinating the children. Now, I'm going to play you a couple of clips because the co-author of this bill was a lady by the name of Lauren Ventrilla, and she went on CNN and she really had a sparring match with Boris Sanchez because he started bringing the facts to her face and she implodes really, really quick. Take a look at this.
This nation has gotten out of hand with crime, with the bad negative things that are going on. Why is it so preposterous that we would want our students to have the option to have some good principles instilled in them? If they don't hear it at home, let them read it in the classroom. It's no different than the Mayflower Compact, which is mentioned in the document as well. I don't understand why this is so preposterous and that litigation is being threatened. It doesn't scare us in the state of Louisiana. We say bring it on.
Because if someone has a home in which they choose to believe something different, which is welcome in this country, it's literally why people fled to come here to found this country to begin with, then they should be allowed to. And it's not really an option if you're requiring it to be put up in the wall of a classroom. What do you say to the parents of students or even teachers who don't share your religious views?
Don't look at it.
What would you say if your child had to go to a classroom in which the 5 pillars of Islam were required to be on the wall? How would you feel?
Again, this is not about the 5 pillars of Islam. This bill specifically states the 10 Commandments. It is a historical document.
I'm presenting you with a hypothetical that would help you put yourself in the shoes of someone you may not understand and their point of view. How would you feel if you walked into a classroom and something you didn't believe in was required to be on the wall? You can answer that question.
I appreciate you, Chris. I cannot sit here and gather and fathom what you could give me 1,000 hypotheticals. But again, this specific bill applies to this specific text. The Quran or Islam, that is a very broad statement. We're specifically talking about a limited text on, mind you, a piece of paper that's not much bigger than a legal sheet of paper. Some kids might even need a magnifying glass to read all of this. This is not so preposterous that we're somehow sanctioning and forcing religion down people's throat. I've heard the comments, and it's just ridiculous.
Did she really say don't look at it? Does she really want to go there with us? Because if we're going to have the conversation about don't look at it, then how about the next time a drag show comes to your town, don't look at it? How about the next time you're walking through Target and you see some Pride clothes, don't look at it? How about the next time someone says something you disagree with, you just scroll on past it? I can't believe she had the audacity to say, don't look at it, when they have fought so many ridiculous culture wars over the years. If you don't want the Bud Light can, don't look at it. I mean, I could sit here and go on and on and on about how they should simply just mind their business and not look at it. But this is completely different because this is putting the Ten Commandments up in the classroom. And like he said, what would they say about the 5 pillars of Islam? They would immediately lose their minds. They would say that they're taking over this country, they're infiltrating our beliefs, and they're taking over everything. Hell, they can't even build a mosque in certain cities that they don't absolutely lose their minds and say that will indoctrinate people, and we don't want that there because that doesn't agree with us. It's all about them, and it's all about them controlling everyone else and forcing their life upon everyone else. And as she continues to spar with Boris, he continues to take her to school with facts. And whenever a Republican gets faced with facts, it's worse than when Linda Blair got faced with the holy water. But take a look.
You also recognize that the Constitution of this country, its founding document, doesn't include the word God or Jesus or Christianity, and that's for a reason, because the founding fathers founded this country as a secular one. You don't
Boris,
see that?
I bet you CNN pays you a lot of money, and I bet you got a bunch of dollar bills.
What does this have to do with the network that I work for or what I'm getting paid? Don't make this about that. Answer the question. Why did the founding fathers not include God in the Constitution if they wanted this country to be the way that you see it?
Let me finish my statement. And
answer the question and don't make this about me.
In God we trust. Well, make it about me. I got a dollar bill in my wallet. In God we trust is written on that dollar. It is not forcing anybody to believe one viewpoint. It's merely posting a historical reference on the wall for students to read and interpret it if they choose.
So yeah, really quickly, she could not answer the question and she just had to start attacking him because that's all she had. And at the end of the day, she doesn't know her history. When she started using "In God We Trust" as her rebuttal, I said to myself, okay, she knows nothing about her history and she's a lost ball in high weeds. Because as far as "In God We Trust," that first appeared on a 2-cent piece in 1864 during the Civil War. Then later it was seen on a postage stamp in 1954, and it wasn't put on the paper money until 1957. So this isn't something that's been there since the beginning of time. This isn't something our founding fathers put there. It just shows you how little they know about their history. But this next clip is truly hilarious, and I had to include it to segue into my next segment because guess who comes to defense of the Ten Commandments? Someone who's broke 90% of them, Lauren Boebert. Take a look.
I don't think that it's bad to have something that says honor your father and mother so that you will live a long life. That is the first commandment that has a promise attached to it. I don't think that it's bad to teach children that adultery is something that you should not do. And also listed in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal. And maybe the left and some of these politicians are having a meltdown over having that right there listed in our classrooms, thou shalt not steal, is because government hates competition and they don't want our children to realize that that's something you shouldn't be doing.
You see, folks, I absolutely love it when people like Lauren Boebert walks right into this. I love it when she sets herself up for it. I don't go to church anymore. I'm agnostic, but I still read the Bible all the time because the far right has taken it so far out of context and used it to weaponize it against other people that I catch myself digging in all the time and reading and studying up on it because of how wrong they've got it. So if she thinks the 10 Commandments should be posted in classrooms and kids should see that these things are wrong, then let's talk about adultery, Lauren. Let's really have a conversation about this because Jesus Christ himself does speak on this subject, and he has this to say. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. So what that means is when you divorce your husband and then you go out here to Beetlejuice, that was adultery. Anytime, and I've always pointed this out to people because so many Christians I know have been married 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, well, according to your book, you're still married to your first wife or your first husband. And whoever you've been with from that point on, you've committed adultery with that person. But I don't think they're ever going to accept that, they'll find a way to cherry pick it and say, yeah, but hold on, that don't apply to me. That's how they always do. And of course, Donald Trump had to chime in, and he had to say he thought this was a good thing. He posted this on Truth Social. I love the 10 Commandments in public schools, private schools, and many other places for that matter. Read it. How can we as a nation go wrong? And then he went on to say, this may be, in fact, the first major step in the revival of religion, which is desperately needed in our country. Bring back the 10 Commandments, MAGA 2024. Again, Donald Trump is the absolute last guy who should ever come to defense of the 10 Commandments. When you have people like Donald Trump and Lauren Boebert defending the 10 Commandments, you're in real trouble. Now, what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to degrade anyone's religion. I'm not trying to make fun of it or down talk it. But what I simply want to point out is this. The 10 Commandments comes from the book of Exodus in the Bible. And to believe that these are truly God's laws, then you have to believe the story that a man named Moses went up on a mountaintop and he spoke to God directly. And God told him what to write down, and he wrote it down on these stone tablets, and he came back down the hill. Now, originally, he came back down with the first copy, and he got upset at what he saw the people was doing, and he broke them. And then he went back up again, and God gave him a second copy. So you have to believe that this one man spoke directly to God, and that God told him what to write on those stone tablets. And then you have to take into account how many times the Bible has been edited in human history. You have to think about all the times that it was edited for political reasons and edited by certain churches who wanted certain things to be either included or excluded. So you're actually putting your faith in a whole lot of people when it's not just one man, it's not just Moses that you're putting your faith in. And that's who you're really putting your faith in. People say, no, I'm putting my faith in God. No, you're not, because you didn't see Moses speak to God. Nobody saw Moses speak to God. He's a guy who came down off the mountain and said, God told me to tell y'all this. So I want to break down the 10 Commandments, and we're going to go through them, and we're going to think about why are these 10 the ones that MAGA only wants to focus on. I really want to break this down. So let's look at the first 5. The first 5 are, thou shalt have no other gods before me, and thou shalt not make unto yourself any graven image. But we have literally saw MAGA out at Trump rallies saying, we've come here today to worship Trump. And they build these graven images of Trump, and they all stand around and looks to be like they're worshiping it. That's how it comes off to me. But it goes on to say, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain is number 3. Number 4 is remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. And number 5 is honor thy father and mother. So the first 5, and I'll admit, for those of you that are George Carlin fans, I am borrowing from him right here. But the first 5 are just all about control. The first 5 are just all about respecting authority. The first 5 have nothing to do with how you treat other people in this world. Now, when we move along, thou shalt not murder. That's absolutely against the law. Thou shalt not commit adulteries, number 7. Number 8 is thou shalt not steal. That's against the law. Number 9 is thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. That's against the law. And number 10 is thou shalt not covet. So actually, there's only 3 out of those 10 that are actual laws that we all agree on, and we say you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't kill, and you shouldn't bear false witness. Those are 3 that are actual laws. The rest of it is pretty much all about just control and all about honoring authority. That's what the first 5 really is. And I think that's why they would prefer to have these 10 and only these 10 hanging in public classrooms. Now, we could make the arguments all day, and we could say, well, how would they feel about, the 5 pillars of Islam? How would they feel about other religions bringing in their text and putting it on the wall? We know the answer to that. I want to point this out. How would they feel if we put the teachings of Jesus on the wall? Now, I'm not for that, but I'm just saying, if you put the teachings of Jesus on the wall, which was to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and welcome the people that are sick, the people that are thirsty, welcome the immigrants. I mean, if you started putting the teachings of Jesus on the wall, I have a feeling that they would start to protest that themselves. I have a feeling they wouldn't want to hear Jesus's words. I think they want these 10 up there because they're 10 that pretty much just promotes honoring authority, and they will cherry pick the rest of it to death. And another thing I would like to see, if we're going to start displaying things in public places, then why don't we go into every church in this country and display Donald Trump's quotes behind the minister? I think they should have to own it. I think ministers should have to walk up on a pulpit with his grab them by the pussy line right behind their head. I really do. I think that there needs to be a display of Lauren Boebert at Beetlejuice, and they need to stand there on their pulpits and preach to their congregation, because they're holding their congregation to a certain standard. They're telling their congregation to live a certain way, and yet they are pushing the ideologies of these politicians who do not in any way reflect their religion. And again, I don't care what your religion is. I don't care how you pray or who you pray to, or I don't care whether you pray or not. That's your personal belief. What I'm against is it being in public places, because it's clearly indoctrination, and it's clearly about control, and it's clearly about them pushing their agenda. And that's what we're all so sick of. I'm over here on my side of the fence with a much diverse platform of people. There's way more people on my side of the aisle that have a difference of opinion, and I like it that way. And I want my children to be able to go to school and learn, and I want them to learn history the way that it was written. I don't want them in there whitewashing history and telling my kids that black people benefited from slavery. I don't want them banning books that they disagree with so my kid can't read it. Folks, this is all about control. And when Donald Trump says he wants to see a great revival of religion, he doesn't, because he doesn't even follow it. He just wants to use it to get reelected and to give himself a pass. And that's what so many of these people do when they stand up and start quoting the Bible. I'm not saying that everybody that quotes the Bible does this, but if you see a MAGA Republican quoting the Bible, they're cherry picking out a part of it that they're going to weaponize against somebody else, or they're cherry picking out a part of it to justify what they've done. And this bill in Louisiana is bullshit, and it's probably going to continue to spread. And look at all the states we have that's probably going to say, yeah, let's do that too. And we have to stand up against it, because that's not how our country was supposed to be. That's not what our founding fathers came here for. They came here to separate the church from the state. Don't ever let the Lauren Boeberts of the world, and don't ever let the Donald Trumps of the world dupe you into thinking anything different.